You just made reference to that, is that correct? But
I just said that they have cited that every 1,001 gene is where you see the difference. But that 1,001 gene is critical for your identity and must be honored. So this is my point, is that we cannot just deal with the 1,000 genes that are alike. Because if you do that, then you're going to kill off everything who has a different 1,001 gene. And that's exactly what's happening.
I also want to reference the conversation that we had with Dr. Eric Lander yesterday, and when we spoke of cancer, and he said that lung cancer was one of those things that you couldn't cure yourself of. Yet, as I read your materials, Dr. Jewel+Pookrum, MD, PhD, staff physician and medical director of the GNLD Wellness Center, standing for Golden Neolife Diamite, and hopefully we'll get to some understanding of what that is, that you've directed departments of OBGYN at Woodrow Wilson Clinic for the Henry Ford Hospital. You're a graduate of Creighton University School of Medicine, and you studied and practiced many of the modalities of medicine, yet you yourself used your training and more to heal yourself of lung cancer.
Of course.
How did you do that?
Who have had lung cancer and have healed themselves. And so, look, guess what? When I decided at first I was going to be a neurosurgeon, I recognized that, and no disrespect to my instructors, that they didn't know much about the brain. And my thing was is that, I'm not going to be a bearer of bad tidings, that every time I took you to surgery, you were either coming out of the operating room in a coma, or you were going to be a hemiplegic or paraplegic or quadriplegic or blind, or you couldn't hear, or you might not be able to speak. So thank goodness there were other people like myself in that specialty that forged forward and said, yes, we can do this in a different way. No, we don't have to have everybody in a coma. And thank goodness now neurosurgery is something that you can look forward to and not come out basically a vegetable. Hear me very clearly, is that there's no such thing as a disease that cannot be healed.
Hallelujah.
And this has been the problem with my colleagues, because they have the nerve to make these kind of statements and they don't even know the human body. So every time they talk about the fact that, we don't know, or if you don't know, then you have to shut up and be quiet and basically then ask to be shown, and truly, truth will always show itself. I had one of the most virulent forms of lung cancer in a reproductive female known as choriocarcinoma. And if anybody knows anything about choriocarcinoma, if you diagnose it in the lungs, it's already metastasized. I had that in 1985, so you can count those many years post-survival rate and see what you think about that, whoever made that statement. I was told in neurosurgery, brain tissue doesn't regenerate. Well, guess what? On my scientific magazine that I bought last month, it talks about now how paraplegics are thinking themselves to walk. So, it gets me very upset when I have people who in their erudite ignorance continue to make these statements to the public and tear away at the hopes and keep these people thinking that they need a society, a institution to do something for them that they can't do for themselves. We as physicians are to help these people remember their greatness. You can walk again. You can heal yourself. You don't have to die of cancer. You don't have to be an ADA or ADD child. You don't have to be autistic and can never learn to read or write. You don't have to basically remain dyslexic and think that you have to take a job or something that's less than you. And I'm tired of my colleagues sitting up so arrogantly making these statements and holding people back when it's a lie. They need support and they need guidance and they need people who can talk to them who've studied their anatomy, because they want to know themselves, and they'll go to the cellular level, the atomic level, and beyond to make the changes. So, this is foolishness and it needs to stop. We're in a new century, and I'm telling you, you're going to see the dead rise before it's over.
We love you, sister.
There's no such thing as death.
Oh, preach on. Yes, that's what I like to hear. Nowhere else can you get this on the Boston dial except for on Black Talk Radio. Let me let you know, yes, you are listening to Dr. Jewel+Pookrum, the author of Vitamins and Minerals from A to Z. Doctor, what other information do you have out there where folks
let me just tell you, this is the bottom line and the last thing.
Yes.
And this is what I teach my patients, is that fear and anxiety is a chemical reality in the blood. And so this is why it's so important that we have to seize the time and take control of these media that are constantly filling us full of fear and insecurity, because they shorten your lifespan as you listen to them if you don't have a built-in mechanism to know that individuals who are shot, raped, robbed, or whatever, that doesn't have to be you if you align yourself with the order of the universe. So what they're telling you is that these individuals are not in alignment with the bigger order of things, and because they're out of order, they walk into chaos. You do not have to have that, and I don't like it that people are walking around in chronic anxiety and fear, because those chemical realities, and I will say it again, anxiety is a chemical reality in your blood. Fear is a chemical reality from your blood that is made by your own brain. When you think that you're afraid, when you think that you're anxious and stressed out, your brain makes a chemical analog to the thought that is flooded through the nerves, flooded into the bloodstream, and totally changes the normal functioning of all of your cells. The first system that is totally knocked out is your immune system.
Now,
and that is one reason why there's so much disease appearing to be created from funguses and bacteria, because these individuals are stressed out and are afraid.
You put some information out there. People want to know, how can they get more information? How can they reach you? Does your practice extend further than Decatur, Georgia? Or...
Yes, it does, and I've had to establish some unique ways of practicing to help my fellow man. So I work by internet, I work by telephone, etc., because truly the truth cannot be held back.
Have you made any, have you knighted some people, educated? You have a fleet of folks?
I wish I could find, yes, and I'm looking for dedicated individuals who are willing to expand their brain and see life from a different perspective so that they can help. Because it's time out now telling people what they can't do and how their body doesn't respond. Mm-hmm. These bodies are living biological life. They are physical manifestations of the Creator, and they are exemplifying that. So, this is the same old foolishness, just like, the Wright brothers had to hear about flying, and the same foolishness that
the Earth is
had
flat.
to hear about the telephone, and I just won't have it. So we know that every tissue in your body can regenerate.
Yes.
You must have the proper environment, and most of all, you've got to have the proper mindset. So as I said, my scientific journal is talking about how paraplegics think themselves into walking again. The last time I had said this on radio, you should have heard the very horrible, frightening statements, and I say frightening only because what I said frightened these individuals so much, they wanted to actually tell me foolishness about they wanted me to be tarred and feathered for giving hope to what they have already decided was the hopeless.
Hopeless, yeah.
Oh, that's because you were talking to probably some European-dominated mindsets.
Of course I was, but it doesn't matter. The sun still shines regardless of whether Europeans wanted to or not, and that's how truth is. The truth is coming out whether anybody, I don't care what color you are, want to deal with it or not, and you better get out the way. You better not stand in the way of it, or you're going to get trampled.
How can we get in contact with you, Dr. Jewel+Pookrum?
You can reach me at my email site, which is ovary@earthlink.net. You can reach me at my office, which is 404-288-9682.
288-9682.
Right. And so my thing is that, go to the literature. The literature is all there. This is what really bothers me. Look, when I wrote my book, Vitamins and Minerals from A to Z, do you know that they have been studying black people since the 1700s? They have been drawing our blood, pinching our tissues, everything.
Mm-hmm.
The University of Michigan is the largest data bank for race-specific attributes. Anything you want to know about different races, the University of Michigan has it. And that's why I put the references in my book. Professor Stanley Garn, Emeritus, talked to him personally, and he told me that when I wrote him and said, well, do you have anything specific on the differences between whites and blacks' hemoglobin? He said, well, you have to be more specific. We've done thousands of papers. So when I asked him to send me a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a whole package came. They have discerned our growth rate and development rate, neurologic development, bone density, muscle mass, everything. and they have identified its uniqueness. These authors who've written these papers,